In this video, we're going to make a speed reading app in Ionic. And we're going to do it in the style of a few videos that I've done recently where I just kind of code it live. I don't have any plan or idea of how I'm going to create the app. I just have a general idea of the app itself, and then I'll walk through creating it. So I came across this GIF on Reddit just yesterday, and I've seen these before, and I've used tools like this before, and I really like the concept. I guess the whole concept with like speed reading is not sub-vocalizing all of the words and kind of reading them in your head as you go through a book. I think the idea is kind of like you don't want to read the book like you would out loud. You want your eyes to just kind of scan the words. And so they have these tools which just flash these words at you, and it makes it seem like it's easier to read faster because you're not spending that time, I guess, sub-vocalizing those words. So I've never really spent too much time in seeing how effective these things are, but I think it's cool. But I find it a bit hard to use though. It's almost a bit stressful, I guess, if you use these kind of tools and they fly through these words. If you want to go back, if you miss something, it's quite difficult. And I've never looked around to see if there's any better tools out there, but I thought it'd make an interesting app to build. What I wanted to build was something that I could input some text into and it would flash words up on the screen like this, and then be able to control that easily. So my idea was that you could hold your finger on the screen to make it fly through words like this, but then if you release the screen, it would stop. And then perhaps even some more advanced controls, like perhaps panning to the left or right to speed up or slow down, or even reverse the direction of the word. So if you wanted to go back and read something, you could. So I don't know how far into that functionality we'll get into this video. We'll see what happens, and we'll try to build something cool. So I've already generated an application which I have open here. I've called it Read Speeder just to be a little bit clever. Something like that probably already exists anyway. And what I'm going to do probably is create a component, a custom component to handle that speed reading component. And I think for now we'll probably just do the tap and release functionality where holding down will make the words start cycling, and letting go will make them stop. But before we do that, we're going to need a way to get some data into the application. So I'm going to make a data provider first. It's going to suck in some data to the application. We'll probably just use some static data for now, but we'll load it through a HTTP request. So potentially you could just point that to anything you want and load that text in. So I'm going to come into the command line here and generate a new provider called, I guess we'll call this one text data. And then we'll just have to make sure we are including that in the module file here. And we'll just have to add it to the providers array. So let's jump into that now. We already have the HTTP service being injected. And actually, since we're using HTTP in Ionic 3 now, we also need to include the HTTP module. So we can import that in our root module file, and that gets imported from the HTTP library in Angular. So we'll just add that to the import section, and then we should be good to go. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is, let's see. Well, I guess to start off with, it's probably easier just to just have the data directly in this provider here. So I'm going to set up a variable called, we'll just call it text. Actually, I'll make it a bit more specific. We'll call it speed reading text. And then we'll just grab some data from somewhere and chuck it in here. Okay, so I've just got lorem ipsum up here where we can generate a whole bunch of words. Since we are trying to create a speed reading app, probably makes sense to add things that we can actually read. So I'll just use their explanation here as an example. And I have to make sure that there's no double quotes in there so that it doesn't mess up our string, and there is. So I'll just escape those. Okay, and we'll just make this all one line. This is definitely not the way I'd want to do it in the end, but for now, just for getting something done quickly, we will do it this way. So I'll paste that in there, save that, and we will jump into the browser. And we've got a couple errors here actually. In here, don't know why I did the this dot here. That doesn't need to be defined like that. I should actually give this a type too. We'll just give it a type of string. So that should sort that problem out. And then in here, I missed the M on the from. So that should sort those out. Module pass failed. Awesome. What did I do? Unexpected token. Where was that? Oh, it's still got the from error here. Maybe I'll just reserve that to make sure we get rid of that error. Looks better. Looks like that's working now. Cool, so we should be able to access this data now. So if we wanted to, we could grab the speed reading text directly from the provider here, but we don't want to just grab everything. What we're going to have to do is we want to cycle through each one of these words. So what we actually want to do is break up this string into an array of each word that is in this string. So basically we want to break it on every space there is, and so we want what to be the first element in the array, then is, then lorem, then ipsum, and so we'll get this giant array that we can then cycle through to display each individual word. So I'm going to create a function here which we'll call we'll just call it get speed reading text, and rather than returning that directly, we're going to break that text up on each space. So to do that, we can just use the split function. So if we just return this dot speed reading text dot split, and we want to split that on a space, that should break this up into an array of words. So I'll save that, and then we're just going to try and use that right away in our home page just to make sure that that works properly. So we're going to import that text data provider here, and then we'll inject it into the constructor. I'll just call it text service actually. And then we'll add an IonView did load function here. And we're just going to log out the result of a call to that function. So this.text service, and what did I call it? Get speed reading text. So hopefully if we load the application now, we should get a giant array of all the words in that file. Okay, and it looks like that's working. We have our array here, which has 385 words in there. You can see all of the individual words. And so now what we want to do is display those, cycle through the array at the desired words per minute, and display them on screen. So I think what I'll do now is generate that custom component I talked about that we're going to use to handle displaying these words. So we'll create a new component with Ionic G component, and we will call that speed reader. So we had the component generated here, and now I'm just going to inject that, or rather import it in here and add it to the declarations array so that we can use it in the application. I'm just going to change this. Actually, no, they generate like that now. So we just need to import speed reader from components /speed reader, and then we'll just add it here. And I'll just reserve that application now. So I just realized that the generators for these components actually include the lazy loading setup by default. So I'm not actually going to use that in this application. With the new lazy loading with Ionic page, generally I guess the idea now is to load all of your components. Perhaps as a single module, I think is the better idea. But we're not using lazy loading on our homepage here, so I don't want to get into that in this video. So I'm just going to remove this module file, and we'll just load the component as we have in the past. So with that file gone, we should be able to load up our application now. And sorry if there's some awkward pauses in this video. I've been sick for about the past week, and I'm trying to not include my coughing and sneezing in this video, so sorry about that. Okay, so let's jump into trying to build this component now. So basically what we want to do is pull in those that data into this component, and it probably makes the most sense to include that as an input. So ideally what we want to be able to do in, say, our home file here is add the speed reader component. So we just call it speed reader, and then we'd want to supply as an input the text that we're pulling in from that data provider. So we'll just call this text to read, and we'd want to set that equal to some variable in here, which we might just do now actually. So we'll call that, we'll just call that text, and we'll close that off. So we want to pass in that text into the speed reader component, so we'll add that in here. And so rather than logging out this text now, we'll just say, we'll create a variable in here, a member variable called text. We'll just give that a type of any. I probably should specify the type as an array for that. And then I'll just set this to this.text equals this.text service.get speed reading text. So that's going to load in that text, put it onto this variable, and then in our template, that's going to pass in that text as the text to read input, which we'll be able to use in the speed reader component. So if I jump in here now, what did I already forgot what I called that already? Text to read. So if I add an input here, we'll first import input from the Angular library, and I'll add the text to read input, and we'll just call this text. So we'll be able to access that as this.text throughout this file. So then if I add the ng after view init hook here, we should be able to grab whatever that input was and log it out. So I'll just log that out here. We'll log out this.text. And I'm going to make sure I'm not logging out anything else. Cool. So we'll jump back into the browser. Hopefully those errors go away. Wait, how are they getting on the screen? I'm not logging you out anywhere. Oh, of course, the default template for the speed reader, or for the any component actually, they just include this text, which of course I ended up calling my variable, so it actually used that. So if I get rid of that, that text should disappear. So I wanted to log that out here. It doesn't actually look like I can get that at that point. I thought that you could access inputs after ng after view init. Perhaps I am mistaken. This might be a change in Angular 4, I guess. I haven't used it too much yet, so I have to just check that that is still the case. Actually, no, I think I've just realized the problem isn't ng after view init. I think that's fine. It's just that I'm loading it in here on the ion view did load. I think there's a bit of a timing issue there, so what I might do is just scoot that out into a different function that I'm going to trigger when the user wants to actually start reading. So we'll probably add a button, I think, called, we'll add a button and we'll call a function called start reading. And we're not going to add that to the home, sorry, we'll add that to the component itself. So we'll just jump into here. And so we'll actually, don't really want to log anything else out yet, so I'll just create the button only for now. So we'll use an ion button, and we'll trigger the function start reading, And for now, it's just going to be a normal click with a button. We'll change this to some like tap input later or something like that. But for now, we'll just call that function. We'll add a start reading function. And at that point, we want to log out the text. So we get rid of this. Don't need that now. And so when we click this button, the Ion view loaded should have run, and we should be able to see that text when we click it. So we'll jump back into the browser again. I didn't add any text to that button. Just say start reading. And now if I click on that, we get our array of words, which is awesome. So what I think I might do now is we'll have, I guess, just like a word, which will just, word rather, not world, which will just be a string, and we'll change that based on whatever we want to display. So I'll just set it, let's use a blank string to start off with, and then in the start reading function, we'll set that to the words that we're using. So I guess to start off with, we would set it to the first word. So we'll do this dot word equals this dot text 0. So when we click start reading, we should get the first word added into this variable, and then we could display that in here. So I'll just add it at the top here for now, and we'll check that that actually works. Cool, so we get what there. And so obviously what we're going to do now is cycle through all those words and change what that word is. So we'll keep that first bit there because we do want to set that straight away. And then I guess we'll just use a good old-fashioned set interval. And we're going to increment what word we're up to and change that every, say, we'll start with just 1 second to start off with. So we'll create the function that we want to run, and then we'll run that every 1 second, which is 1000 milliseconds. And so we're gonna have to keep track of what word we're up to currently. So I'll just keep an index up here, which is gonna be a number, and we'll start that at 0. I guess we'll start it at 1 rather, because we're already displaying the first one here. And then every 1 second, we want to increment that. So we'll do this dot index plus plus, and then we'll just set this dot word to equal this dot text, and then the index that we're up to. And that's actually going to have to go before the increment, because otherwise it'll increment before displaying that word. So I think that should work. So we'll jump back in here again. And I'm referencing this wrong. This should be this dot index, not just index. Okay, and we click start reading again. It's working, which is awesome. At an extremely slow speed though. So obviously we're going to want to speed that up. So I think what I'll do initially is I'll just set it at a faster speed of something like 300 words per minute. And then after, we'll try to get some more fancy inputs going with touch events and things like that. If we want 300 words per minute, we're going to have to display one word. Let's get the calculator out. Divided by 60. Oops, other way around. Should be 60 divided by 300. So we want to display a word every 0.2 seconds, which is 200 milliseconds. So we'll save that and we'll take a look again. And this is going to break when it gets to the end of the array, by the way. So I'll click start reading, and that should be, unless my maths is wrong here, that should be 300 words per minute that the words are flashing on screen at. And just out of curiosity, I want to see what it looks like if we set that to something even smaller. Let's say, well, that would be 600 words per minute. We could even go to 1,200 words per minute, which would be 50, which is really way faster than we'll be able to actually read. But I'm just curious to see if it's displaying all the words correctly. I think it'd be impossible for me to actually tell if it's skipping words or not in there, but it looks good. It looks like all the words are being displayed. There's just, yeah, no way I can actually tell for sure. So I'll wait until this breaks, Oh, it didn't break. Look at that. Yes, because we didn't have a check for when it reaches the end of the array here. So I was expecting that to error out, but it didn't. So basically what we want to do is when it does get to the end of the array, we want that to stop the interval. Right now, I'm assuming it's just getting undefined values and attempting to display that. Just to confirm that, I might just log this out actually. Let's see if that is happening. So rather than keeping that interval going, we want to stop that at that point. So we'll just wait for all these to finish. Yes, so we're just getting a bunch of undefined values, and that's what's getting logged out, but the interval is still going. So what we'll do is we're just going to also keep a reference to our interval. We'll just call it text interval. And then when we create this, we'll create this dot text interval equals set interval to keep a reference to that. And I forget the syntax for destroying an interval. Let me just look that up. Clear interval. So we should be able to just do in here, we'll just do a if this dot index is greater than or rather less than the length of the array. We will increment it. Otherwise, we will clear that interval. So we'll save that and we'll just double check that that worked. Should really make the text shorter so that it runs through quicker, but I'm just going to leave it as it is for now. So we'll click start reading and whoops, I've broken something. Because I want our array of words here, not just the current word. So we want this .text.length instead. So we'll save that again and we'll give it another shot. So basically that was just running for the length of the first word. As in if the string was 5 characters long, that would run 5 times. So looks like that is working now. So we will just wait again. Okay, cool. So that's working. We are actually going one over there. We've got a bit of an edge condition, I guess. This should be, if it's less than this .text.length, take 1, and then that will not have that last undefined value there, which it probably isn't really a huge issue, but we'll change that anyway. Okay, so we've got the basic idea there now. We've got the text being pulled in, split up into an array of words, and then cycling through those. And I suppose as is usually the case with these types of videos, I overestimate how quick I'm going to be, and the videos end up dragging a lot longer than I thought. So I'll probably do, I'll split this one into 2 parts again. I feel like this is probably a good place to leave this at the moment because it does work. It's very ugly, but it does work. And then I'll record another video of being able to set the words per minute, getting rid of this button and making it display a bit nicer, and basically just using those touch controls I talked about where you would be able to hold onto the screen to cycle through the words and let go to stop, those sorts of things. But if I did that in this video, I think it's going to drag out too long, so I'll leave it for there and I'll see you in the next video.